But it does. So let me move to cyber a little bit. You've written a lot on cyber. You're sort of an authority in this area. The idea of a large big data storage of all the dissidents' private communications that hasn't been tapped yet by the Chinese government sounds to me like an interesting cyber hostage for the U.S. government. So my question to you is actually the war and peace question. And I've heard senior officials debating this even recently in Tokyo. Is a cyber attack an act of war if it doesn't immediately cause fatalities? Or is it sort of an act of commercial aggression and civic aggression that implicates law enforcement issues? Is there a seam there that we can identify?
Well, if you looked at what happened in the West or East Coast when the power went out, they had the transmission line problem that came through Ohio, went down. I forget what the death toll was, but it was pretty significant. So the power went out, I want to say, for 7 or 8 days. And they were having a hard time getting it back up. Imagine on the eastern seaboard, it goes out for a month, 30 days, and it ain't coming back, right? So your hospitals are going to run into a problem. What? You can't get petroleum enough to keep your generators running for 30 days. All your banking and financial transactions stop, cease to exist. Your ability to produce or to deliver and keep refrigerated food goes away. The delivery of water becomes just about nearly impossible. You have to go back to a manual system for millions and millions and millions of people. If that isn't an act of war, I don't know what is.
But the Mohawk incident several years ago turned out to be a technological industrial glitch.
That's part of the problem, is attribution.
Attribution. How fast can we attribute cyber attacks and the way networks work and the way they bounce around the world from the source to the end result?
Getting better, but nothing's perfect, which is exactly why when the private sector says we're ready to go be a digital vigilante and solve this problem for myself, I get a little nervous because they might be flicking the wrong person in the forehead through just wrong attribution. It gets difficult, it's complicated. Our NSA, I think, is probably one of the best in the world at doing attribution. They're continue to get better and continue to understand just exactly how that information moves around the world. But this is the environment that we're in. And remember, we don't control our internet. The Russians turned off the Ukrainian electric grid about a month ago. They just turned it off because they could, and they were trying to cause them some harm and some punishment.
Now all the infrastructure is owned privately, so the White House has to reach out, Commerce Department, and I was part of that in the past at the beginning. So does the attribution information rely on the sort of cyber protection capabilities of the banks and insurance companies and the stock markets, all the private sector? Do we rely on them telling us what they think happened, and that becomes the U.S. government's attribution picture?
Yeah, unfortunately. So the whole NSA contractor that leaked information and stole information and now is in the loving arms of an FSB agent in Moscow. I won't mention his name. We're still in this weird hangover in America about what the policy should be. And it works against us, and it works for the Russians, and it works for the Chinese, and it works for the Iranians. Because we didn't even want to have the business community share threat information with the government, right? Which made no sense to me whatsoever. And now we want the government to share threat information with the private sector. 85% of those networks are private sector networks. You want that exchange in real time, machine to machine, not for the government to spy on you. That would be highly unproductive and, by the way, illegal. But to make sure that we give some threat protection to 85% of our companies who have private networks, including our electric grids, our banks, your grocery store, your Whole Foods, your favorite Starbucks. I mean, all of those things are huge problems. The fact that they can get our uplinks and downlinks on our satellites. Anybody have the Starbucks app in here? Yeah, you don't even want to admit it's what it is. That's what it is. I'll tell you, there's like 45 million, I think, people who have the Starbucks app. Imagine 45 million Americans trying to find the nearest Starbucks, and their satellite GPS no longer works. You thought electricity going out was bad? You talk about 45 cranky Starbucks people who can't find the place, right? Huge problems, chaos in America. And so we have this huge problem coming at us, and we really have not gotten out of this hangover about what they think this guy thought he was doing. And I tell you, it worries me a lot. We got behind the political narrative, we didn't explain it well, and now we're fighting this fight, which, as I said, the Russians, the Chinese, and the Iranians, they love it. I mean, we still can't agree on a sharing regime that protects American networks from some of the nastiest source code you will ever meet in your life.